All right, there we go.
Oh, okay. All right. Starting over. All right, new milestone. Let's take a look at our product direction for the milestone and talk about potential trade-offs that we'd have to make. So I think you guys have already seen as far as, hey, this is what we're working on. Our big thing is we want to make code suggestions better. Cycling through code suggestions is a big piece of that. That's also been asked from our e-group. Before that, we do have a bit of a blocker. Tomas, thank you for taking that on. But basically, a big piece of work that is happening is how do we go straight through the AI gateway and bypass the monorepo? I think most of you are familiar with that work. Definitely the epic is there if you want to take a look. But with that, also in parallel, since as a team we work in a lot of parallelized work efforts, the other one is integrating JetBrains into the language server. Aaron, correct me if I'm wrong, or if I'm wrong on this one, please correct me. But with that, we will get secret redaction and code suggestion caching. I know we have to talk about the circuit breaker as a different piece. And also, at the same time, we're making JetBrains improvements across the board as far as, hey, let's make the UX UI a little bit friendlier there. So there is more of a signifier. And also in parallel, we have John doing the good work for Visual Studio. So there's a lot of pieces. And I think tell Maverick or I, as far as like, hey, these things are potentially in danger. If the scope gets too large for the milestone, let me know. I know there's a lot of parallel efforts, and as a team, you'll probably get pulled into a lot of them. But just let me know if, hey, we need to potentially sacrifice one for the other. From a product side, at this point, I believe would want to sacrifice part of the work for Visual Studio, John, to get the JetBrains integration across the line. And we can talk about that too, if that's a bit of a problem. But I think that's where the trade-off would have to happen if we have to have one. Okay. All right. And I have the last one. Actually, Dylan, I might lean on you since Tristan is watching. So Dylan, Tristan, and I went through this heuristic evaluation that our UX design team is putting out. I'll share it more widely. I think they're still kind of touching it up. Dylan, am I right on that one? I feel like they're still doing comments and cleaning it up a little bit.
Yeah, there's managers that are reviewing the work of other people that did the analysis. So we're just waiting on them to fill in the rest of the feed, like the comment section, and then they should ping us when they're done.
We started an epic to capture that, since a lot of them are very much like, how might we do this? Or how might we do this? A lot of things that maybe we as a team can't solve, but we still need to capture since it's feedback for our product, even though potentially there's a lot of integrations. And take a look at the epic, but then I'll share out the heuristic analysis more widely once we get like the go ahead that it's done and commented on. All right, over back to you, Maverick.
Cool. So just a few things. First off, now that everyone's here, welcome to Bogdan. He'll be joining us as a back-end engineer, C#. I think he's got some Java experience. I think you do. So he will be joining John and us to help us build out Visual Studio, and also hopefully some future extension work as well. So welcome to the team, Bogdan. The second thing I have is the retro. So this is the first of all, thank you all for giving the new planning structure the good old college try. Please provide feedback on ways that we can continue to make our planning sessions better. I did add a little note for everyone. Let me get that note up. Give me a second. Give me 1 second. All right. One thing that I do want to say to the team is just overall amazing job for milestone 17. We stayed focused on Duo, token authentication, telemetry, and POC work. And most importantly, planning and productivity, I'm hoping felt a bit better, but you all shipped all of your most important deliverables. You closed 39 issues and you merged 94 MRs. I just want to give a bravo to the entire team. You did an excellent job last month, and I want to make sure that that is acknowledged. So bravo to everyone on the team. Feel free to add bits to the retro, things you think we need to improve, things that you want us to continue to do. But your opinion matters. We want to keep making this process as smooth as we can. Also, shout out to Laura for the concept of release cadences being something that we start to think about as we ramp up as a team. We're going to want more processes in place so that we can work faster. So shout out to Lauren for that as well. And the last bit, just pulling it all together in terms of what Dasha has mentioned, the milestone planning bit is here, and feel free to look at it. There's some bypass monolith work that she mentioned that we'll be doing, and also some additional bits that have been added. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. That is all that I have. Does anyone else have any updates or things that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I guess a small one is Lena is familiar with this already as well, is I ran into a blocker with the JetBrains LSP integration. With our existing IDEs and extensions that use the language server, the only one of those that actually requires a binary is the Visual Studio, which is Windows, and Windows does not require code signing for binaries. So when we're looking at moving over to supporting Mac OS, so because we're supporting JetBrains IDs for Mac, we're going to have to unblock ourselves on that. I've been experimenting around with, there's a couple of code signers you can use for Linux. One of those the first recommended one works, and it signs the binary, but it comes back with like an invalid signature. The other option I've started doing is like a re-implementation of Apple's code signing. There's like a Rust library I can pull in to the build process. And that one seems to give me a valid binary that I don't have to like validate for my Apple Silicon chip. But on that note, I realized that we don't actually do Intel-based Mac builds for binaries yet. So we'll have to add that as well. And that should just be one line of code. But there's just a couple of like cleanup like chores we have to do for LSP to make sure we can actually integrate with, or well, to make sure we can actually ship to JetBrains on all operating systems essentially. Because right now we're only supporting like a few architectures, like Intel chips for Windows and Linux, and then only ARM chips on Mac, but you can't actually run the binary without signing it. So yeah, and I've started that. I've added an async update in the issue there for anybody interested. But I think by the end of the day, I should be able to get an MR up for code signing the LSP binaries.
Thank you, Erin. Anything else that you think may be a blocker or anything that needs to be worked on that you need to pull someone else in to potentially help with? Or are you good?
I have an action item from yesterday's call. So yesterday there was a sync call. It's recorded. Anybody can go back and watch it. Just around the LSP. But once I progress with the signing and actually running the binary, we should be able to divide up the work for chats and code suggestions, for example, to have those sort of pushed towards using LSP. The chat is dependent on John's work for getting chat into LSP. But that one's lower priority than getting all the code suggestions improvements, which is where the majority of the parity questions are coming from for JetBrains versus VS Code.
Makes sense. Any other bits from anyone else, or we can stop recording and have our coffee chat? All right, I'll stop.